Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And this is part 2 of our special end of year manifesting extravaganza, for want of a better expression. So if you haven't listened to part 1, do that first and then come back to this one. So we've established where we need to be. We need to be creating that space and listening to ourselves, working on our healing, raising our vibration. And then as we sit with that energy and we shift into a new space, there will be things that we naturally just want to let go of. And it's such a funny space to be in, because it's not about seeking so much as just allowing. It's allowing the things that no longer serve you and no longer work for you to slip away, to move out of your experience here. And there will be things that you have a big and violent reaction to. I often liken it to sort of pushing two magnets together. You're trying to get them together, but there's resistance there. You can feel it getting in your way. But there are also things that are just kind of meh. And so being very discerning with where you put your focus and your energy is really, really important. Accepting, of course, that we are human beings. You can't just bin off everybody in your life. I think lockdown, aside from the tragic side of lockdown, was really, really fascinating for me, with the energy of just not needing to be accountable to anybody else and just being in my family unit and focusing on us. And I have to say, lockdown on the lifestyle side of it was absolutely amazing. And I do think that there was a lesson in there for us about pulling back and not overdoing it and finding peace within us and ourselves. And I know it didn't work like that for everybody, but there's lessons in everything, isn't there? So allowing yourself to change. One of the most important things to understand about creating the future that you want is you cannot do everything exactly the same as you're doing it now and expect change to happen. And that's such an important thing to think about. You cannot carry on as you are and create the life you want. You're in one cycle of energy, you need to move into a different one. There needs to be not only the space and the higher frequency, but change and allowing of change. One of the problems with being a human, I think, is that we are so fixated on routine and everything being the same and everything being as it's expected. We constantly miss things all the time that the spirit world is sending us and trying to teach us with, because we are so focused on just life and the path and the route that we find ourselves in and on and upon. And so Spirit are trying to get our attention, trying to get that information to us, trying to show us different ways and new ways, and we're so caught up in the old that sometimes it's just not part of our reality. It's just not part of our conscious experience. So I hope from listening to this podcast, you know that the spirit world are with you always. And you know, because I said it at the end of the last podcast, that the spirit world want you to have what you want. They are always working towards what you want, except for things that they know your soul doesn't want. So if you are, for example, determined to make a relationship work which actually isn't the right relationship for you, that's where you're going to come unstuck with manifesting. Because if that is not the right person for you, you can't manifest them into the person you want them to be. If they are not who you want them to be, they are not who you want them to be. That's it. You can't change them into something that works for you. And so we have to be willing to let things go. We have to be willing to trust that better is coming. And that can sometimes be really, really hard. On a lower level, less painful than a relationship, but still for me, when I had to give up my cooking business, that was really, really hard for me. Now, it's weird because I'm grateful every single day that I don't have to work like I used to work, that I still work really bloody hard, but I used to be up till 1 o'clock in the morning waiting for things to cool to a temperature so they could go in the freezer, sitting there staring at a casserole in a thermometer in an ice bath, waiting for it to be cold enough to go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning so I could get up again and do it all over again. The smell of onions that followed me around everywhere I went. I remember going out for a nightclub and opening my handbag and smelling the smell of cooking, because everything in my house and everything that we wore smelt like cooking. Because I was doing, catering on a mass scale in a kitchen in my home. And I was absolutely exhausted. But at that time, if you had asked me what I wanted the most in the world, I would have told you I wanted that business to be a success. And when Spirit finally got through to me and showed me what it was doing to me and how it was harming me and how damaging the whole situation was, I had to grieve for that business. I had to be brave. I had to fold it. I had to close it. I had to admit failure. That's a hard thing with your ego. I had to say to everybody that had been following me and watching me, it's not working for me, I quit. That's such an interesting space to be in, to admit that it wasn't right for you. Why do we find that so hard? But we do. And I had to give up that with nothing to go to, and no idea that this was all waiting for me. And it's so funny because now I smell like incense. and I love my life, and I have so much joy in this work that I'm doing. But isn't it interesting that at the time I was bereft? I cried. I had to say goodbye to it. I had to grieve for it. It felt like the loss of something huge and monumental that I had created, and I'd poured hours of time and effort and work into it. Now, I think I needed that experience to get me to where I am today. I can see all the time in things that I do, running a business, skills that I learnt, understandings that I have. I get it. I get it so much more. So I get that I needed Home Cooked by Hannah to get me to where I am now. And it was so funny because I still wanted to help people. I had a real thing about especially elderly people and the quality of the meal delivery services and wanting to take things to the next level. And God, I was so bad with my boundaries, but that's another story. I used to get sucked into people's houses for hours and hours because they didn't see anybody else, but also not valuing my time or myself enough to charge for my time. So it was a very interesting position to be in, and it's such an interesting energy to sit back in and remember it now talking to you all. But that's where I was, that's what I was doing, and Spirit knew that there was more available to me. Now, I still stand by, I chose to be a medium, because I don't think that they just push you down a path that's predestined. I think that we choose lots of things in our life, and I chose it in stages. So I started off as a healer, and then I started doing oracle card readings, and then that's progressed to teaching, and then I moved into evidential mediumship and everything that's come from that. But I chose it every step of the way. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't know that I would choose it. Funny, isn't it? And so we're getting me prepared for it. But I chose it. I've chosen it again and again and again. And equally, if next year it doesn't start paying off and I choose to go work in a supermarket, the spirit world will still be with me. They won't disappear off and that will be it. They will still support me and love me because I can choose whatever I need to for me. So there's an element here of understanding the journey and understanding that what you're wanting sometimes shifts and changes as you shift and change. You are not signing a contract in indelible ink that is going to be stuck for your whole life. You can think you know right now what it is that you want and you need, but you have to move yourself into a space where you are working towards that, and then actually something else might come up, might come along, and that's okay too. The spirit world aren't there going, oh bloody hell, we spent all this time trying to get you to be a frozen food guru with your ready meals, and now you've picked something else, you utter bastard. Because it's all very clever. They know what's going on with you and they understand the growth that you need to have. So you will sometimes need to let go of things that you feel very, very sad about. And there are many things that I can think of that I've had to let go of because they weren't right for me. Friendships that were the most amazing people. I mean, there was one in particular, a friend I had that was, I felt like Icarus. Being close to her was like being near sunshine. It felt amazing, but it could also burn you. And I understood that that relationship wasn't healthy and wasn't balanced and moved away from it. So find yourself just gently releasing and grieving for the things that you know need to go. And if you're in a space of grieving what you've lost, don't expect the universe to deliver what it is that you want instantaneously. It's not about taking away the energy of the loss. It's about integrating the loss so that you can move forward. So you have to allow yourself to be in that space of release, surrender, and then integrating the lesson and where you've been with it so that you can move forward. All space creating. Does that make sense? Okay, so you've released, you've raised your vibration, you've integrated all of that. It's probably taken you months. And of course it's an ongoing process. So there's still things that I'm letting go of, that I'm healing from. Healing is not a destination. It's a lifetime's work, guys. You know this, I know this. It's the never-ending story. Oh, healing your energy forever. You know it. I know it. We all know it. So let's just understand that we're constantly moving, constantly shifting, and sometimes just getting in our own way. Now let's talk about where your focus needs to be. Energy flows where focus goes. Okay, and so this is always the problem, and this is where I get into trouble. And yesterday I was texting Amanda, because Amanda is a massive law of attraction expert, and I was texting her going, I was in a mood last night. I had a migraine, so that always makes me really negative. And I was like, oh, nothing is happening the way that I want it to, Amanda. Why is it not happening? And as always, she came back with some truth that I went, oh, I don't want your truth. And then I went, yeah, she's right. Bollocks. So, yes, if you want something, you have to make sure you're not focusing on the lack of it. And that is sticky. It's a problem. It's hard. It's hard to find the balance there. So really it's about letting the universe know what you want. They've heard you, trusting that, and then letting it go completely and focusing on what you can do in your current life right now to bring more joy and happiness and channeling that energy into there. And so I've been really, again, clearing my house out, because that's something that always comes up for me when I'm energy changing, focusing on bringing myself joy in my surroundings and where I find myself right now. There will be a lot more joy in my surroundings when water is not coming in through the ceiling, I have to say. So you're in that kind of space where you are working out what you can do to make your life better now. And this is always an interesting thing. So many people, moving house is always an interesting one to me, because you're in this house, you don't want to be in it anymore. Every time you come home, you feel restricted. This isn't what I like. I don't like the neighbours. I've had trouble parking today. And when people come to me and say, I want to move house, it's not happening, what does Spirit have to say about it? The message is nearly always the same. And the message is, you've got to love your house again, because anyone that comes to look at it is not going to want to buy it, because they will feel the energy that you're living in it with. So it's a hard thing, isn't it, when you're energetically moving to where you want to be, but you're kind of held in the old, and finding the balance in that. So what we need to do is, rather than going, there's no point decorating that room because we're moving, you decorate that room. There's no point getting rid of that piece of furniture because I'll just do it when we leave. You get rid of that piece of furniture. And you start to fall back in love with where you are, and that will make the energy of the space better, which will make somebody want to buy it, which will then make you able to move forward. But you can't have one without the t'other. So again, you're working in that kind of energy of finding happiness where you are, in the energy of where you are. Now, I get, for some of you, that's a big ask. It's a difficult thing to ask you to do. And this is why when we're dealing with things like deep-seated grief and upset, and when we've got trauma in our lives, it's really, really important to deal with the trauma and the upset. So this is where I say, go get counselling, get a talking therapy, go see a healer, whatever it is that brings you clarity and makes you feel good or makes you feel better. It's about finding that for you and working with it. What you want cannot come until you are in an energetic space to be able to receive it. So we're always tied up in knots, aren't we? Because we're looking at whatever it is that we've got that we don't want or we don't like. We know what we do like, where we're heading, what we're aiming for, and we can't seem to cross the gap, bridge the gap to be able to get there. And you bridge the gap by finding joy where you are, finding happiness where you are, having that focus on where you are. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have nights like I had last night when I was texting Amanda, where you go, boo-hoo, it's all too bloody difficult. You're allowed to be a human being, God almighty. If any of you work out how to not do that, I think you should set up some sort of, membership program, and you'll be a multi-millionaire, because we'll all sign up to it so we can be fixed. But in my opinion, it's not something that can be fixed. It's the human condition. And so when you're working on attracting what you want and manifesting what you want, have the bad bits, have the moments where you throw your toys out the pram, the sulks, and go, okay, done that now, back on track, and follow what makes you feel good. The problem is when you think, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that, now I've ruined it all, and then you're compounding it. We are energy beings, we are emotional beings, we ebb, we flow, we rise, we fall. That's okay. Imagine it like a graph. You know those graphs that you see on the news that are going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, but they always rise. So even though it's going up and down, it's always rising. That is what you want for your energy. It's not about just going up on a diagonal linear line that never bounces around. It's about allowing yourself that ebb and flow. And if you judge it, and if you go, oh my God, I've not been doing this right, what is wrong with me? Then you add more to it. Then what's going to happen? Your poor energy system. Then how's it going to work? So you have to allow yourself to be human. Allow yourself to think, God, this is taking ages. Now, one of the things that can often hold us back is when we try to make it happen. So we say, okay, I want to get from here to here, and my brain, my human logic, the sum of my experiences, that course I did online, that thing that I saw that person say, says I need to get from here to here, I need to do this and this and this. And that's coming from your brain, it's coming from your intellect, it's not coming from the spirit world. So you need to be very, very clear where your energy is at. So I believe that in order to manifest what we want, it is a collaborative energy between you and the spirit world. And there will be times where you need to take action. For example, if you are setting up a business as a spiritual reader and you want to read cards for people and help people, you are not going to get clients until you set up your business and announce that you're doing it. Clients are not just going to find you magically. You need to put yourself out there. So that is action required on you that spirit can't do for you. Equally, there's a space where you can feel like you need to do it because your brain is telling you, but your soul is saying, actually, you're not quite ready yet. You need to wait another 6 months. You've got learning ahead, time to practice. And so you've got to find where the information is coming from. And following the energy of it, I find very useful. So if you just imagine with your knowing that you are all more than capable of, just imagine the flow of the energy. Is it coming from your gut and your heart? Or is the energy coming from your brain? And starting to question that and tune into that will just really, really help you. It's always interesting to me when my brain gets overloaded and it's filled with fear and you can't do this and blah, 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 and you're a fraud and all of that stuff. And then I feel into my soul space and I feel into my solar plexus and there's no fear there. When I feel into my heart, there is no judgment, there is only love. So all of the other stuff is coming from my brain. So finding out what is action that is coming and being called to you from the spirit world to get you where you need to be, even if sometimes it doesn't make sense, is very different to action that your intellectual brain is telling you to do. And you need to be able to find the different points. You need to find whether it's spirit or whether it's you. And when I'm saying you here, I don't mean your soul, I mean your brain, you're human. And finding that space of, do I feel like I want to do this? Because one of the interesting things I think is I know it's me, and this happens often with me, I know it's me when it becomes very, if I do this, it will do this. If I do this, it will get me here. If I do this, that's, spirit don't tell you what it's going to do. They'll just give you the instinct of something that you want to do and you have to follow it. And not everything that you want to do will make sense, but it will give you that clarity. Not everything that you want to do that comes from spirit will be a success, but it will give you the learning and the understanding. And that is important. Interesting, isn't it? One of the things that I find incredibly useful for me, because my brain is busy and I like to be go, 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 is affirmations. Finding a sentence or a saying or a phrase that makes you feel empowered and makes you feel good. And I work with them an awful lot. So I work with them on my mediumship, things like I am an incredible medium and I get evidence with clarity and ease. That was one I was using when I was really trying to up level my work. But at the moment, my manifestation, my affirmation is, I do less, I achieve more. I do less, I earn more. So finding something that works for you that you can sort of repeat and say to yourself. And yes, we're cyclical beings, we run programs, it helps with the program that you're running in your mind, but it also helps you just surrender into that space where you can feel trust, where you can feel better. Now, I like to do mine on a dog walk because I get my steps and I sort of march to the beat of my affirmation. But saying them to yourself as many times as you can through as many different ways will really, really help. And I want you to do it. It's very important that you do it in current tense, not future tense. So, for example, I don't say, I will be an amazing podcaster. I say, I am an amazing podcaster. I don't say, I will be a published author. I say, I am a published author. So being very present with it right now just helps with the energy and bringing it into you. So even if you feel like a fraud, it's a really great energy to bring in to help you create what you want, because you will see your own resistance. When I did I'm an Incredible Medium, I get evidence with clarity and ease. The I am an Incredible Medium, phenomenal, I think was the word I used actually, it had such resistance in it. Because my brain would go, well, who are you to say that? You're not phenomenal yet. You're on your way, but you're not there. And it was really interesting to step back and watch the reaction in my physical self and my ego self to that affirmation and work through that. And there was processing that I needed to do there. So when you're finding what you want, I am happy in my home and I'm looking forward to moving to my new one next year, or whatever it is that you're working on, you find yourself resisting it. So you'll go, I am happy in my home, and your brain will go, no, you're not. You don't want to live here anymore. You've been here 2 years. And you'll go, no, I'm happy in my home. I am happy in my home. And you have to just kind of work through, and that's part of the healing process. It's part of the unfolding process to get you where you need to be. It's facing your own resistance that is holding you back from what you want. And it's okay to have that resistance. I wish I could take it away from you all. I wish I could take it away from myself. It's okay to have it. It's about moving yourself forward in spite of it. And your imposter syndrome will always tell you you can't do what you want, but you can. So I hope that this helps. I always like to write myself my New Year list of things I'm going to achieve, and I have it pinned to my notice board in my studio so that I can look at it throughout the year and see the progression towards it. And sometimes there is no progression towards it, but it doesn't mean it's not coming. It just means I need to hold that space. And sometimes I will hold that space very well, and other times I'll be a sulky little baby about it, and that's okay too. And then your request is sent. It's like sending a letter to Santa. It's done. And your focus needs to be on getting your energy into a good space and finding happiness where you are, and not doing what we all do to a certain extent, which is the judgment. How long is it taking? It's taking forever. What's going on? And moving past that into that, I know it's coming. The right thing for me is coming. So whether you're going to use this for your mediumship development or the changes you want in your life, I look forward to hearing from you all about the projects that you have achieved, the things that you do over the course of next year. And if you get a load of resistance coming up, that's okay. You're not doing it wrong. That's how it goes. But the more that you clear out, the more that you face up to, the more space you create, the more space and scope there is for spirit to work with you. So there we are, the end of season 2 of Mediumship Matters. And I just wanted to thank you all again for such an incredible year. Thank you for all your support, your shares, your reviews, your questions. it's just been beyond anything that I could ever have imagined to manifest at the beginning of last year, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you all. I can't wait to see where next year takes us. I've learnt a lot. There will be some changes ahead, including I'm going to have a bit of a sort out and get rid of some of the old episodes and things like that. So now's your chance to go back and listen to your favourites again to make sure that you don't miss them. And I will catch up with you all again in January. Have a fantastic Christmas, a very, very happy New Year, and lots of love to you all. Thank you.